How much money would you get if you invested $10,000 into the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF, ticker SCHD? Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Spencer. I talk all about dividend investing, and let's just say SCHD is one of the most popular funds out there, probably the most popular ETF, I dare to say. It's had a really solid performance, and I see why people love it. I am a fan of it as well, and so maybe I am a little bit biased. But in this video today, we're going to see how much money you would make if you held this fund for, say, 1, 10, 15, 30 years. Is it worth holding? What would it look like? How much money can you kind of depend on in the future if you wanted to retire on SCHD? We're going to find out all that and more in today's video. So I hope you guys like and subscribe to show the support and let me know that you like this style of content. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. So let's roll that intro. Starting off by looking at the chart for SCHD, I just plugged it in on Google. We can see it's down 1.7% this month. On the year, we're up almost 5%. On the 5-year, we're up 88% nearly, and the max 227%, which is really impressive. It's been trading since it looks like October of 2011, which is not an insane amount of growth, but it has been relatively consistent compared to a lot of others, and the dividends have been very, very solid. So we're going to look at a lot of things about this fund today. We're going to check out the website. We're going to look at the dividend history. We're going to look at a drip calculator and see how much money you would have if you have dripped your dividends and not dripped your dividends, which makes a really big difference depending on your investment style. And then, of course, we're going to run our calculations for 10K invested and see how much money it really makes you, which I think is really important because if you're an income investor, if you're focusing in on retirement and you want money when you're not working, then this fund is a very consistent way of getting it. So we're going to check out the dividend yield, a bunch of information, and more. So let's check out their website. I know that SCHD has some diehard fans, and let me say I understand why. You have a really low expense ratio of 0.06%. On top of a number of things, the dividend yield is pretty solid. It's lower than what a lot of people are interested in for income investing, but for income plus growth, a 3.5% yield is not bad. It's higher than what? Johnson & Johnson, all of these huge ones, Coca-Cola, Apple, all of these funds that people, or I should say stocks that people are buying. It's pretty consistent with growth as well as the dividends, which makes it pretty solid in my opinion. There's a lot that goes into these funds. We can see total net assets is $77 billion. This is not a small fund by any means. The weighted average market cap is $140 billion. So there's a ton of stuff that goes into this fund. It's large value according to Morningstar, and that's the Morningstar category. And then we can see the management style is passive, which means you're going to pay less than your expense ratio typically. Again, the fund's inception was in October of 2011, so it's been around for a good amount of time. 14 years nearly. There's a lot of info that I think is useful on their website, so I'm not going to talk about all of it. You can check out the NAV history, premium discount, all of these things for yourself. I definitely recommend it. But for the sake of keeping this video fast-paced and not too long and boring, dare I say, I know you guys are probably finance nerds like myself, so it wouldn't be boring to you, but I do want to keep moving along because there's a lot to talk about and not a lot of time. One thing about SCHD is they do, I think it's annually, rotate out, kick out some of the stocks that aren't doing as well and bring in some new ones, which I like. It is still a passively managed fund, but every year they're just switching it up. And there's a lot of things that go into SCHD that make it very consistent and solid. One, the dividend yield, which is not terrible, 3.6%. But the dividend growth rate, and that's the trailing 12 months, and that's a 12.23%. Then we have the CAGR, the compound annual growth rate, which is 9.87% over the past 3 years, and on the 5-year CAGR, 11.59%, which is crazy, and the 10-year, which is a 11% CAGR. Now, the compound annual growth rate is important because you want your dividends to keep getting bigger and bigger. And for SCHD, because you are getting a bit of growth as well as some dividends, being able to factor in making money on the money you've already invested on top of dividends, if you're going to reinvest, it's a double whammy. You're getting double the value, and this is rare to see. I will say, in all the videos I've made, I'm not sure I've ever seen anything with a 10-year CAGR above 10% because it's difficult to do. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, it's easy to do because the dividend yield is so low. And that is true. The yield is a little bit lower than what we would typically see for income investors, for dividend-focused investors. And you compare it to REITs and BDCs that can range from 9, 12, 15% dividend yields. But are you going to get that consistent return? Are you going to get consistent growth? Your chances with SCHD are a lot higher, I would say. But as always, not financial advice. Now we can see the annual payout, 99 cents, which the fund is currently trading at 27.76. So a little bit of a dividend, but it is what it is. When we check out the dividend history, we can see it does move around a little bit, and they did do their stock split, which was in October of 2024, which I do think brought more eyes to the fund. It's nice. You can just hold more shares, and there's some benefits to it. If it was just a normal company, there's more argument to it on if you want to split, if you don't want to split. But for something like this, like an ETF, I'm okay with it. I definitely think it's probably more beneficial. You can scoop up more shares for lower, which I am always a fan of doing. Now we can see the dividend, it does really range a lot. Before the split, it was in the 60s, 50s, even up into the 70s. And since the split, it has dropped ever so slightly. Now, we did only see one dividend so far because this is a quarterly payer. I wish it paid monthly. And maybe I've had people in my comments saying maybe it will go monthly at one point. I would love that just because the compounding. I know you might not think, oh, well, monthly to quarterly, there's not much of a difference. There is if you are dripping and compounding. So I would love to see it. It would definitely make it more popular to the income investing community, I would say. But maybe not, because it is still lower yielding than what a lot of these highly aggressive income investors are wanting. So I'm curious to see what the first dividend is of 2025, how it holds up. It should be coming out any day now. We're already into March, so looking forward to it. Let's throw this into a drip calculator and see what money you would be making if you had purchased at the inception of SCHD. So I like to use dividendchannel.com. Their drip calculator is very solid, and you have the SCHD symbol in there already. So here's what we're looking at. Wow. Now, when we were looking at the dividend history, we saw it was really solid with a 3.6% dividend relatively consistently, but your returns are far past that. So going back all the way to 2011, had you invested $10,000 and drip on, you would be sitting at $48,900, which is an insane amount of growth with the dividends powering that as well, with an average annual total return, meaning every year you would have gotten 12.56% at an average. Really, really solid. And this is why people love this fund. It really is. Your total return is just under 400% with drip on. With drip off, the numbers are a bit worse. Total return 311%. By no means is that bad. But your average annual total return drops by over 1%, almost 1.5% actually, to 11.12%. Still very consistent, and even holding this fund as a growth fund seems to work for a lot of people, but I love drip. I love dripping my dividends. I am relatively young. I'm probably older than people think, because sometimes people call me kid in the comments, and that's okay. I think it's kind of funny, and I tell my dad and he laughs at it, but I am older than I look for sure, and so I like having drip on. I am definitely going to have drip on for my retirement portfolio. I already do. I like buying more and more and more every chance I get, because I don't want to spend that money. I want to keep it in there and invest it, which I am not a financial advisor, but I'm just a proponent of drip. I'm a fan, I would say, and of SCHD, as we can see. So now let's plug in these numbers and factor in what we'd make over 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years using this exact same average annual total return of 12.56%. Everything is on here. We're on marketbeat.com using their dividend calculator. I have plugged in SCHD. The only thing I will note is I have the distribution frequency set to annually, not quarterly. Now, we all know SCHD pays quarterly, but because I took this from the drip calculator, if I have it set to quarterly, it's going to drip more than just the dividend itself. So I have to have it set to annually for it to be more realistic. And I hope that makes sense to you, because the way that drip is factored in on here, if I have it set to quarterly, it's going to over adjust it, and I don't want to give anyone like a inaccurate representation of what it has done. This fund has been very, very solid, and so I just want to be real. I'm going to be realistic. So we have 1 year invested, and we have that absolutely insane 12.56% return. So over that first year, we get $1,255 in dividends from our $10,000 investment. Totally, we have $11,248.80 in our ending balance. Now, the cool thing is, moving forward, our annual dividend income is boosting, right? Because every time we're adding another $1,200, and it's only going to keep going up and up and up, because compound interest, if you guys are not familiar with compound interest, if you're watching this video to this point, you definitely are. It is an absolute wonder how this thing works, and I absolutely love it. So now our annual dividend income moving forward, after we've now had $11,000, is going to be over $1,400. So let's kick this up. Let's do 5 years. At 5 years, I mean, it just gets insane. Your total dividend payments over the 5-year period, $8,000. And now this is saying dividend payments. This is going to be total return. So it's what you're making, which is a difference, but we unfortunately can't factor in everything because we took all of our numbers from the drip calculator that gives you just one number. So we can also see your total return number now, I should say, not dividend income. You're getting $2,267.94 every single year moving forward. And after just 5 years, our ending balance is $18,000 for an $8,000 return. Absolutely insane. 10 years, we're going to keep bumping it up. At 10 years, your 10K is now worth $32,625.92. And it's just going to keep getting better and better and better. So what I like to do with these ideas is I like to think, oh, if I was to actually invest 10K in SCHD and it performed as it has for the first 15 years of its lifespan, how much money would I have? That's the goal of this. I'm not saying it's going to do this. Of course, we never know what's going to happen in the market. It could do better. It could do worse. But again, we're just basing it off of the returns that we have seen. So very, very solid $22,600 in total return over that 10-year time span. So we're going to kick it to 20 years. In 20 years, we hit the $100,000 mark, which I know after 20 years, it's a very long time, but getting a 10x return is hard to do. You're near 1,000% just off of this 12.5% return every year. So we can see ending balance, your 10K is now worth $106,513.25, with total payments, total gain being $96,520 or so dollars. Now moving forward, your total income, what you're going to be getting from the fund every year is $13,400 roughly. So I like to play a game. I like to say, what if I am 25 and I want to retire at 55 and I put 10K into SCHD? Would I get anywhere close? Because it's hard to factor all these things in. It's hard to estimate, but is 10K going to be something we can live off of? We know with inflation, probably not, but let's see if we can get anywhere close. So if you kept steady and strong, you had drip on, and you had an initial yield or a continuous yield of 12.56% being your return percentage, I should say. The same yield, consistent. We never sold. We didn't buy more. How much money would we have? $350,000 for a total return of 3,400% over that 30-year period. Your total dividends or money received from this investment, $338,000. And moving forward, you're getting near $45,000 in returns, which is absolutely insane. Now, if you were to think about this, if we turn drip off after 30 years, you could retire off an income of $45,000, $44,000 a year. You could. In 30 years, it's going to be a lot harder to. So I definitely would say you need more than just this amount, but we all invest in our retirement accounts. We all invest in the ways that we can so that we do have enough at the end of our lifetimes, right? So I definitely don't think you could only retire off 10K invested into SCHD. Maybe the fund will prove me wrong, and trust me, I hope it does. But all in all, it's solid, and that's what this has shown. Consistency, solid fund, does what everyone expects, doesn't outperform, doesn't underperform. It's just consistent. And one thing I love about stocks is when you find one that's consistent and it does what the goal is. We're not looking at crazy NAV erosion. We're not looking at the swell in dividends and then a drop in dividends. The fund is, that's what they call it, what? The dividend ETF king, because of what it's able to do. That's why it's so popular. That's why so many dividend investors absolutely love this ETF. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. SCHD is one of my fan favorite ETFs. I know a lot of people love it, and that's why the video was made on it. So if you guys enjoyed this, again, don't forget to like and subscribe. Helps out the channel, helps me grow. I appreciate it. Our goal is 500 subscribers at some point. Who knows when we'll get there, but slow and steady. I really appreciate all the support you guys have been giving me. It's been absolutely amazing, and I'm going to be pausing some content for a little bit. I am going to a ETF conference, believe it or not, in Las Vegas these next couple of days. So it'll be a little while until this video comes out. But I hope you guys still enjoyed it nonetheless, and let me know what you think. And check out my main channel, which I'll link down below, so you guys can see what I've been up to in Las Vegas, which I'm so pumped about. And it's all because of the support from people just like you. You guys are absolutely amazing. If you enjoyed this video, chances are you're going to enjoy these videos popping up on your screen right now. So check them out and let me know what you think. Thanks for watching.